Saturn, having finished its retrogradation journey, is now moving forward again, and it's in the 20th degree of Aquarius. It's been there before. Aquarius 20, a big white dove, a message bearer, reward in heaven. The dove follows Noah's flood to promise the end of calamity and the re-emergence of peace. In Sufism, it symbolizes the descent of Holy Spirit. Every spiritual step is the result of a victory over forces of inertia and destruction, teaches Dane Rudhyar. Without stress or calamity, we would not know what spiritual peace is and its sacred value. We are promised that there will be a spiritual blessing at the end of time of troubles. Completion is an extraordinarily important aspect of our spiritual development, our evolution towards mastery. It's very easy to start things compared to the difficulty when it comes to finishing them. And we're promised here that even though there may be calamity and difficult times, at the end of those times there will be a dispensation, a spiritual message, a gift. And we know that, don't we? We get that our tremendous effort in life, perhaps to get our professional qualifications or degree at university, or going through a troubled time in your relationship, or the period of dealing with kids when they're going through their teenage madness, and so on. Whatever it is, there are some times in life which have a duration of great difficulty. And sometimes, even if that's a small period of time, the difficulty is great, and we feel like at the end of it, we've really accomplished something. We've come to the end of our trials, and we feel a sense of triumph and serenity, almost, a spiritual breakthrough of some extraordinary level. And of course, it's not available to us, that feeling of triumph and spiritual grace is not available to us unless we have gone through the troubled times previously. So in one strange sense, you could say that we actually want troubled times because the joy of having overcome them is so strong that it's worth it. Now, there's some truth in that. But there's a deeper truth, perhaps, in that when we start something, we set up a path of beingness. Now, we might be doing something in the meantime, taking action, but we're becoming something. We're changing what we are, who we are, how we are. We're becoming something else. And if that's wrong, fine. Don't have to continue it if it's wrong. But certain things are not wrong, they're just difficult. We know that that's the right thing to do. And we have to do it then. If we know it's right, then we must complete what we've started. If we don't, we diminish the chances of ever being able to complete anything again. It's just how it works. If you complete things, you expect to complete things again and again and again. You become someone who completes. And if you don't complete something, you become somebody that runs away when the going gets tough. And it's better for us throughout eternity on the level of soul to be aware that whatever we start, we will complete. Now that then is retroactive in a sense that then we don't take on challenges which do not motivate us to bring about this higher level of commitment to completion. We're very careful about what we start, and that awareness is a level of mastery. So you don't say yes because it feels good. You think, maybe yes, maybe no. Let me think this through, and you feel it through, and you get a real deep sense of who you are in this moment. It's very self-defining. Now, if you know that you're the kind of person that can just try things and give it up and try something else and give it up, and you kind of never finish what you start, you'll never measure the moment. You'll never measure the aspect of this moment which has resonance into what we call the future. It's not really the future, not really on the highest level, but it's how we perceive it. So if you don't actually commit yourself to a path with that sense of knowing you're going to complete the path, then you will not know how to measure the future. You can't feel it. Whereas those of us that make really sure we do complete what we start, we kind of read the future better. We learn that everything needs to have a series of properties. You have to collaborate, you have to have resources, you have to have right timing, you have to get in tune with the zeitgeist. There's a lot of components of what makes something real. And it's not just feeling like you'd want to. That just doesn't do it. It's totally unrealistic, that's silly. Now, to move from that silliness, which most people live in, to a state of mastery, which very few people live in, you have to be the kind of person of the high integrity to finish what you start. And what we see in this image of the dove is not so much that we'll be rescued from the flood and everything will be all right. It's not really that. It's a recognition that we've gone through something and we've taken it to the end and we've done what we set out to do. And then Holy Spirit descends. That's what happens. We actually get that feeling of well-being, of rightness, of integrity, of honor. And that's evidence of Holy Spirit. So what does this mean for Saturn, who's going through this now? How does Saturn influence this particular kind of energy? And what Saturn kind of is aware of is that it's all a little bit more difficult than we think. There's always a little bit more to do. We have to go the extra mile to finish the job properly. So we're not only talking about completions now, we're talking about Saturn's measurement of completion. So that's much more correct, much more finished, much more properly done, tying up all the loose ends. So that's what we're about now. And during this period of time, we will notice that some jobs that we have started and almost finished aren't quite complete. There's something a little bit outstanding. And Saturn's saying, like, it's a good time to do that. You really do want to do that now, because you're not going to get this feeling of the descent of Holy Spirit until you can move away from that and just know that that's past tense. It's gone. It's no longer real. You have to put away from you those things that have almost completed, but not quite, during this period. So it's a time to look over all that's outstanding, everything that's still not quite done, and make sure it is done. And then just notice that you feel good. That lovely feeling when a burdensome task is ended. It gives you this feeling. Well, that feeling is the white dove. That's the Holy Spirit. So you can start to calibrate that feeling. You know what it feels like to be in tune with the Holy Spirit. It's not only meditative bliss, self-abnegation in spirit. That's part of it sometimes, but it's more than that. It's also being on top of life. The worldly challenges have their spiritual dimension, and when we actually rise to the occasion, do the job well, do the job completely, and move to the next level, that movement to the next level carries with it this blessing. And that's not temporary. It does pass. The feeling itself passes, but the power of that moment is not temporary. This is an improvement in your sense of well-being and confidence, and it develops self-respect, which in turn gets respect from others. You develop kudos, you develop gravitas, you develop maturity and adult qualities of being able to be trusted to get the job done. And life becomes easier. Your track of life then becomes a simple question of doing what must be done, doing it properly, finishing the job, moving on. Whenever that comes up, it doesn't come up all of the time, but when it does come up, you deal with things. So if you get a task, deal with it immediately. Don't put it back. Don't put it off. If you can deal with it immediately, properly, and finish the job, then this sense of spiritual grace just builds up and up and up, and you become somebody who's entirely on top of life. And then you can see beyond all the anxiety and the troubles and the worries. You can see something else. And if you live there, you'll realize that the worries and the anxiety are simply a choice that you're making, but you're making it unconsciously by refusing to do the job properly. So there it is. That's what we have to do right now in this few weeks. Get the job finished.